D-Lo for boxing. All right, y'all, I want to talk about this Canelo Bivol fight just for a minute. Okay, so a lot of talk circulating out there about Canelo wanting to get a rematch. Had a rematch clause in the fight, in the contract for the fight. Bivol has openly said that if he has to go down to 168, no problem. He'll go down to 168 and take Canelo's titles. There's talk that Canelo is entertaining asking for the fight at 168. I'm not here to talk about how I feel about whether or not they should have a rematch or how I think it plays out at this weight or that weight. I'll just say that if there's a rematch clause and Canelo decides he wants to activate the rematch clause and they have a rematch, then, I can understand that. Fighters are prideful. You go out and lose a fight, you got an opportunity to get a rematch, and is there to be had. Why not? Not gonna say I'm for it or against it. I understand it. If it's contracted, he wants to exercise, I can understand him doing so. Now, as for the original fight, I definitely did not agree with those scorecards. Canelo certainly didn't win the first 4 rounds, and he certainly didn't win. He certainly didn't win almost half of the rounds in the fight. So for me, I basically just feel like, from what I saw, I felt like Canelo basically got dominated in the fight. I felt like he lost at a minimum 9 rounds in that fight. I gave it 10-2, and there was another round that I almost gave Canelo, but I just couldn't give it to him, and also, to be honest, the one of the rounds I gave him, I felt like I was overly generous. But I just couldn't, I can't understand a 7-5 scorecard, which is what all the judges had. 115, 113, this wasn't a 115, 113 fight. And my thing is that I get it in boxing when there's so many bad decisions, and a lot of times fights are scored for the wrong guy, that we could take solace in the fact that, okay, at least the right guy won the fight. But at the same time, that's not necessarily the right position to take either, because, it's just like if a guy goes out there and has basically done enough to get a decision, and because, late in the fight, just say 12th round, 20 seconds left, and, the referee, waves it off because he feels like the guy, was a hit with too many unanswered punches in a row, and the guy was really protecting himself, and he wasn't really in danger, but he gets a knockout loss on his record that probably wasn't deserved. You have to say, okay, the right man won the fight, but now this man has a knockout loss on the record that he doesn't deserve. And it's the same thing when a guy goes out and wins a fight too wide or whatever, or you get upset. You're like, man, it's going to reflect that this guy got dominated when he really didn't. So I look at this as the opposite. Canelo was dominated, but the scorecards read that it was a close fight. So Bivol, in the record books, is denied the opportunity to, historically, when people look back on this fight who didn't watch it, they're going to say, oh, Canelo lost a very close fight to this guy. But in reality, Canelo was dominated. But it ain't about Canelo. Bivol deserves his dominant win to be celebrated as such and to historically be reflected as such, in my opinion. And I get it, at the end of the day, a win is a win is a win. He should go on to bigger and better things after getting his win, even if that means the rematch. But I just don't like when a guy goes out and clearly dominates a fight, and then he has to rely on hope at the end of the night to win the score on the scorecards, or because he didn't knock the guy out, it was still up in the air as to whether or not he was going to get the win, whether or not the judge was going to feel like he earned the win. Watching this fight, there was a point in the fight where Bivol landed every punch on the tree on Canelo in succession. You know what I'm saying? Like, he rattled off about 8 or 9 consecutive punches, unanswered. And at the very end, he threw like one left hook, and Canelo turned his head, and he dodged that one punch. But almost everything else landed. You know, so, you know what I'm saying? And I know that was just one sequence in the fight, but it was also, to me, that one sequence was the embodiment of the whole fight. Or that was the whole fight in microcosm, in my opinion. So, you know, I felt like Bivol deserved a dominant win, and it should reflect so in the record books, and it's a shame that it doesn't. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that he wasn't robbed of the opportunity to have his hand raised as the winner in this fight, because he definitely did enough to win the fight. But he definitely did it in a dominant fashion. That's all I got on the D-Lo 404 Boxing. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.